banks. What is the global mafia, the global government mafia? I mean, go over some of the ways they're losing, some of the court cases where they're getting defeated.
Well, a lot of these, especially in Ohio, with Mark Dan, who is now a foreclosure defense attorney, with Dan Doberdruck and Welland, he actually goes into court, and he said now he's winning so many cases, it's almost redundant. And I've looked at his work, and he says that's not even the best stuff.
But then people right next to him that didn't know how to defend, they're losing.
Exactly. And the danger of you going in pro se, if you tried to fight this thing in court yourself, and this is what if I can't say anything else to your listeners, is there are attorneys out there who know this stuff. Do not attempt to go in because you'll get out-procedured. The banks, their attorneys are paid to win. They are paid to do whatever it takes to win. And in certain states like New York, they now have to sign an affidavit attesting to the fact that the information that they're setting forth is true. And if it's not, they can get disbarred and they can end up in jail. And so a lot of these court cases are sitting there for years. I've actually authored over a dozen quiet title actions that are in court that attorneys are using. So I'm actually behind the scenes when I'm not auditing land records. I'm actually writing pleas.
I talked to a lawyer whose brother is, let's just say, number 2 at one of the big 6 banks. And he told me like 2 years ago, he said he told his brother, this is all a big scam, and I'm going to probably have to go to court against you. And I'm not going to get into what happened, but the point is that that's what this has come down to.
Well, and the thing is that, a lot of these CLEs and CODA workshops that we're doing, CODA is an acronym for Chain of Title Assessment. We basically teach you how to go through, start with a warranty deed and move forward and go through each document step by step and compare the documents, compare how they're indexed. It's not only what's there.
Sure. But I mean, it's hard, but there's not that many lawyers from what I've read. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and people I've talked to who actually know how to win because this is all so new. It's been going on for 15 years or so, but now people, first they just couldn't believe it. Now that they're looking, oh, it's true. There are more and more lawyers that are learning this and winning. They're reading your book. They're going to these seminars. A lot of folks are out there educating people. But I do know folks that are pro se just because they can't find a lawyer in their area who are having some victories as well.
There have been a few. A lot of them have been by default where the bank doesn't even answer. We had a quiet title action in Houston where MERS came back 6 months later in the Nancy Groves case and basically says, oh, well, wait a minute, we're MERS. And the District Court of Appeals in Houston in the 14th DCA said, nope, you don't get a do-over. You didn't answer it when you're supposed to, so end of story. And she quieted title in her property. I have done quiet title actions personally on properties I've owned, but those are tax deed sales. But there is a significant tax deed sale in Missouri in the Bellestry versus Ocwen case where Bellestry came forward with a tax deed and Ocwen and MERS came in and MERS said, well, we conveyed title to Ocwen and so Ocwen gets to come in and have standing. And the court said, no, MERS doesn't own the note. And what people don't understand about MERS, they're bankruptcy remote. By their own admission, they're a shell company. They basically were set up to do nothing but track transfers and mortgages.
Yeah, instead of this being done at the courthouse, and you've got to have bureaucracy and companies, because this is important. You got to keep track of this. It was a great system, worked one of the best in the world.
Exactly.
And now it's fried, and the feds and the state's answer is, well, this wasn't really legal, but we'll try to make it legal and just let it keep going. Well, that'll destroy total confidence in the system.
Exactly. And see, this is why I'm so glad that that Oregon and Washington State are now, their Supreme Courts are now considering whether MERS is a valid beneficiary, because an Oregon Court of Appeals in the NIDA versus GMAC case just ruled that MERS is not a valid beneficiary in the state of Oregon. Immediately, somebody went to the chief judge of the U.S. District Court in Oregon and had her certify to the Washington Supreme Court as to whether or not MERS is a valid beneficiary. So they held off the final appellate ruling in favor of what the Supremes are going to say. March 15th of this year, we had MERS counsel in, the same MERS counsel as was in Oregon, and when they asked him on the Bain and Selkowitz cases, who actually owns this mortgage loan now, and the attorney for MERS didn't even know who owned the notes.
Yeah, let's talk about Bain. Which is, I mean, I've looked at it. It did go in. It did screw people over. It is a predatory operation. And again, folks, I'm no Obama supporter. I'm just facts are facts. Very predatory. Tell folks about those cases.
Well, with Bain and Selkowitz, like anything else, and their attorney, especially Stephen Jones, Selkowitz's counsel, I love the way that man argued. He had a passion. When he went in, it basically is like when the courts asked him, have you been told or have you gotten paperwork yet as to who owns your client's mortgage? And they said, no. This case has been going on for 2 years. It's part of the obfuscation. anything that MERS can do, and they don't like me, by the way. They tried to have me thrown out of a federal settlement conference in Kansas City a year ago, February, when they found out who I was. Fortunately, the judge gave me permission to be there, and he told the attorney, enough's enough. When we got into the jury room where we were sequestered, I gave him a copy of the book. He started laughing. He knows. A lot of judges know. A lot of judges like Judge James McBride in Fort Worth in the North District of Texas, they're making a stand and they're actually ruling Carpenter versus Longan, which is an 1872 court case, which says that if you split the deed from the note, which they do in securitization, the note is a nullity.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, listen, the fraudsters have disconnected real assets from reality in their fraud and attached it to their derivatives cloud that's conservatively over 1.5 quadrillion worldwide. They've sold all these governments these consolidated mortgages, and then the insurance and the derivatives and all the crud on it. There is no way to ever fix this from all the experts I've talked to. Correct me if I'm wrong from your deep research. And so where does it go? They're not going to stop. They're going to try to ride this out. They're getting martial law ready all over the world and even telling people that. So what's the army going to do when all their mamas lose their house? What are they going to do when the values all plunge? When they just destroy everything because we won't arrest these Ponzi scheme operators? Arrest them. You either arrest them and write off all the derivatives, or it's the end of civilization.
Well, I feel sorry for the service guys that are over there fighting for our country, and they come back here and find out they don't have a home anymore.
And then, by the way, everything's collapsing. Go point guns at citizens.
Exactly. And that's a problem I think that they're going to have mentally. I think their conscience is going to eat away at them.
So what's the time frame on this?
Oh, it's going to take a century to clean up this mess.
But, I mean, is it going to keep just rotting slowly, just, into this slow depression, or is it an implosion? I mean, because all I know is government's digging in, getting army tanks and armored vehicles and machine guns, and the Secretary of the Army says, we're going to put a brigade in every city. I mean, it's all happening now. They're going operational. Is it World War III with Iran? What is it? Because they're acting like everything's going to, implode. And I'm saying a lot of economists and people that have looked at this, they're saying that it's going to come to a head soon, is my point. Is this what they're getting ready for?
I think that this is an ongoing process. If they're going to come in and take property, and we're actually looking at now where I got to love the counties in the states, they're actually looking at taxes, and they're looking and saying, well, wait a minute, you're not upkeeping, Mr. Banker. You own this property, or so you claim to. You filed a deed in the land records, but there's weeds growing up, and we're having to mow. We have liens. Tell you what, let's just take this property by eminent domain. And so the county is actually turning around. The counties are starting to research this stuff. You're going to see.
Yeah, I saw though where they're giving the police and people basically a free house.
Yeah, this bothers me.
It should go. No, this is Road Warrior, man.
It is.
It's got to go back to the original person. They've at least got some claim, but they're going to do this eminent domain.
Well, and that's a problem because if they don't do it properly.
But no, so you've seen that where they're like basically giving the city people the houses now, though.
They have done that, and I've seen cases where the judges who actually ruled against the homeowner in court were seen later on video walking around that person's property they just allowed to be foreclosed on.
No, God help us. Let me tell you, folks, you got to dig in. I'm telling you, the criminals have taken over. They're going to steal everything. I'm telling you, imagine if this fraud, all the big banks are laundering the drug money and even running the aircraft. I mean, that's come out, Bloomberg. I mean, what else is going on we don't know about? Can you imagine, Dave?
Well, the thing is homeowners can be proactive. When they go to the mortgage table, they can say, you know what, I'm not going to sign a MERS mortgage anymore. I'm not going to advertise. Oh,
yeah, they have little forms now saying, when you agree to sign this, we can change things later. What's that?
Exactly. Well, I mean, they basically have all sorts of little waivers and indemnifications now. I've seen some.
But that won't cover fraud, though, as you know in contracts.
It's that. That's right. But the problem that we're seeing is, and I've looked at several of these are indemnification agreements. In fact, Bloomberg called me one afternoon and faxed me a copy of one that they received from Wells Fargo. And they said, well, I don't see where it says indemnification. I said, look down at paragraph 22 on page 4. First question to ask yourself, why did they bury it way back here? Because the investor buying that REO doesn't have time to read it. He just wants, like every other homeowner out there.
Incredible.
What's the keys?
It's clouded titles available at InfoWarsShop.com. Get it. It's info weapon. Let me ask you a question. What does freedom mean? Go to cloudedtitles.com to find out about some of the seminars he's putting on to really drill down into this. It was an ebook, but this is a brand new edition, a lot longer, a lot of the latest cases and documents. And again, it is available right now at InfoWarsShop.com or by calling 888-253-3139. knowledge is power. The people perish for lack of knowledge. And it's just like yesterday when I was talking about InfowarsTeam.com and those little RX cards where you can get, 15 at the lowest end to 80+% off. And we've been testing it. It's a card. You just put your name on it, prints right there. It's got a code on it that accesses discounts on across-the-board prescription drugs. Congress has made them do that because we pay the highest price for those. So they have to have that program, but they're not going to tell you. You've got to know how to access it. So InfowarsRx.com. So, yes, that's what we're doing here is selling and promoting things that fund our media operation to fight the tyranny. Whereas the globalists just come with the government and steal your money through taxes to give it to themselves as bailouts, which they planned from the beginning to implode. Now, Dave Krieger, I'm going to get you back in for a full 2 hours one day to talk for 30 minutes and then take an hour and a half of calls to talk about the horror story so people really get this. But anybody can just type in, homes being taken, that were paid for, and you'll see CNN, Fox News. But they report it like, well, they had their house taken. It was theirs, but somebody just put a fake. They're even putting it in there when they never even had a connection to it. It's pure fraud. Do we know how that's happening? Because, I guess if I was an insider, I go to Mears, I say on this website database, I own the state capitol. And then do I show up and I call the SWAT team and I go, the state capitol's mine? And they go, yes, sir. And I'm given the state capitol. I just say it's mine. And then the Austin SWAT team will go take it for me? Is that...
Doesn't quite work that way unless you're a bank. The problem is with the banks, Alex, the left hand doesn't know what the right
So it wouldn't work like that for me, but if I was a mega bank, the Austin SWAT team would assault the Capitol.
Yeah, well, you can tell the reach that the banking entities have into Congress and various other...
They'll just take anything they're told if God Bank says.
Well, again, I have to defer back to the issues when we were discussing earlier on the show, the aspects of Eric Holder and why he's not reacting and why Lanny Brewer is not prosecuting. They can't do this because of the fact that they've had ties to MERS Corp. And MERS Corp, by the way, is now MERS Corp Holdings, Inc. They changed in February of this year.
You mean the same folks that ship guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment were instrumental in setting this up?
Well, I guess...
the same people that want my guns? Come on.
You're doing the...
But again, they run it, so if I was an insider, I could just say I owned your house. Just come take it. Just I'm God.
It's really sad. I feel so sorry for the plumber in New Jersey that owed a $140 sewer bill, and the county actually sold it to an investor who came back and foreclosed on the house without the guy knowing about it, and then said, well, that $140 sewer bill that I just bought the lien on, you owe me $37,500. The bank, because of the fact that forced the homeowner into default, the bank ended up going back in and negotiating at several tens of thousands of dollars and tacked it onto the guy's mortgage loan. Oh,
I remember there was a case in Houston where a woman didn't pay. It was like $10 and they took her house.
Exactly.
I think that's good. I think that's freedom.
Well, sure, of course it is. On the sarcastic.
Now, how dare you write this book and try to help people?
I understand.
And how dare us sell it?
Well, a lot of people have referred to...
You didn't build this book. Obama wrote it. Did you hear him say he did everything the government did?
Of course.
I guess in a way their crimes did write this book.
He has a robo-signer on his mortgage in Illinois.
What's wrong with that? Yeah,
of course.
It's illegal, but
as long as he's willing to let it sit there.
Well, I just
he doesn't want to react.
The government wrote your book.
Yeah, well, they helped me write it.
No, but you've
helped me write it.
But you heard Obama say if you have a small business or made a song or wrote a book, you didn't do that.
Yeah, of course.
He told Bob the Builder you didn't build that. But thanks for the campaign slogan.
Exactly, and you invented the internet too.
Well, actually, Al Gore did. Yeah, well, he did everything. Al Gore actually is probably Mother Earth. He gave birth to the planet.
Just about.
5 trillion years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very impressed. David Krieger, former news director, TV, radio host, all over the country. And he's written the book, Clouded Titles, available right now, InfoWarsShop.com. Get the UN gun treaty info. It's bombshell right now.